What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing another full evolution line in the Go Battle League, and one that I've been wanting to feature on this channel for a very long time, and that is the Frigibax line. Now, unlike a lot of other pseudo-legendary dragons, Frigibax actually gets all the way up into the 1400 CP range at level 50, and whilst it doesn't quite have as high stats as its evolutions do, it is genuinely a viable Pokemon. Now, luckily for me, I was able to catch several shinies during GoFest and had a couple of attempts at mirror lucky trading for this 96% shiny, where my friend actually got a Schlundo out of it. So whilst obviously I'm very happy for them, I feel like a Schlundo Frigibax would absolutely bang views on YouTube, and actually my most viewed GBL video features a submission with a level 50 Hundo Frigibax. But anyways, the team did surprisingly well. I was able to overcome many hard counters, including several Azumarill. So with that being said, let's just get straight into the question of the day. What was your favorite slash best Pokemon that you caught or traded for during this year's Global Go Fest? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Frigibax into Talonflame. Now, in neutral situations, I'm always going to swap into my Arctibax just because I might need the Ice Fang coverage up against certain Pokemon, whereas, of course, I've got Dragon Breath on both my two back Pokemon. So here, we fire off the Dragon Claw, outpacing them to that first charge move. And at this point, I can probably live a fly, but I'm going to shield anyways, and I will now be able to outpace them to the next charge move. However, they swap into Morpeko. Morpeko definitely lost a lot of popularity recently with Dedenne getting buffed this season, and of course, Bug Bite and Fury Cutter also getting buffed, but we can throw an Icy Wind on the Centipede tie, then swap into my final Pokemon, my Baxcalibur, and at this point, I'm definitely just going to shield, respect the damage here. The opponent full sends the Aura Will, but we now can commit to a full Dragon Breath farm down. Now, we do see a bit of lag there after Morpeko throws a charge move each time, and they actually come in with Azumarill, and with all shields down, this is not looking too good for me, but Avalanche does respectable damage, and I can reach a second Avalanche before the opponent reaches a play rough. Avalanche number 2 gets them into the yellow health range, very close to that red health range, before the opponent eventually fires off the play rough. Now, at this point, they did overfarm by a single bubble, so I can go for 6 Ice Fang, swap, catch the next play rough onto my Arctibax, and suddenly things are looking so good for us. They swap back into Talonflame. They will one Incinerate from the next charge move, but we outpace them to the Icy Wind. It gets the KO, and the opponent gonna concede the match with that Azumarill up against the Frigibax, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see a Clodsire in the lead, so a great lead matchup for me, but the opponent's going to swap into Gelatin, trying to catch the charge move there. However, we did actually not reach the Icy Wind. So at this point, we're going to come in with the Arctibax. The opponent full sends the Shadow Ball there, which is fine with me. Arctibax is the bulkiest Pokemon on the team. We are now going to go and fire off a Dragon Claw, which the opponent can tank, and I realize I put them into range where hopefully Baxcalibur can come in and Dragon Breath farm them down. Maybe before they reach a Surf, but definitely before they reach a potential Shadow Ball. So we're going to come in with the Baxcalibur. The opponent is actually not going to get off any charge move whatsoever, which is very nice for me. Then I'm going to come back in with their Clodsire, fire off the Stone Edge, but then they swap into Jumpluff, and now Frigibax is absolutely going to go to town right now. We grab a shield with the Avalanche, we come in with that Frigibax, and of course going for the Icy Wind. Icy Wind going to hit for double super effective. These Ice Fangs already absolutely shredding through this Pokemon. Jumpluff is a very bulky Pokemon, but we do shield the acrobatics there. I'm not even going to need to go for the Icy Wind. We put them into range, where of course a Dragon Claw gets the KO. We take them out there, and we are 2 away from the Icy Wind, which we're able to reach. And of course, Icy Wind, super effective. It does big damage, and the opponent has clearly just given up, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent into the next battle, Frigibax into a Diggersby, so another good lead for us, but the opponent's going to swap into Carbink. This is honestly one of the worst things we could possibly see. However, we do have neutral damage with the Ice Fang, with the Icy Wind, so our best situation is just to stay in this matchup, fire off back-to-back Icy Winds, and hope the opponent is going to no-shield both of them, knowing they can tank those, and they actually do exactly that. So at this point, we come in, we've also double debuffed their attack, so now I'm expecting the opponent to go for a Rock Slide. We tank that relatively comfortably. They do reach a second Rock Slide, so this one I'm definitely going to shield respect the damage there before the opponent swaps back into their Diggersby. Now this should just be a Fire Punch, so I can tank this relatively comfortably once again. Gonna go for one Dragon Breath, fire off the Icy Wind, probably going to grab a shield here, and it does. So now we swap into our Baxcalibur. Now, unfortunately, Baxcalibur not on Icy Wind. However, we do have Avalanche for that nuke potential in the endgame scenario, but the opponent debuffs me with the Scorching Sands, and now, unfortunately, Dragonclaw probably would have got the KO previously, doesn't come close, and their final Pokemon is going to be an Acid Victory Bell. Of course, if they were on Razor Leaf or even Magical Leaf, this would probably be a fairly comfortable matchup for me, but unfortunately, they've got quite a lot of fast move pressure. The opponent probably could have settled for the Leaf Blade, but they full send the Sludge Bomb. They still outpace me to the next Charge Reef, and even if they didn't, they could have just gone for the Acid Farm down there, but Leaf Blade gets the KO, and unfortunately, we do lose that game. But GG's to open there into the next battle. We're going to see Dedenne in the lead. So this is definitely where we want to see it. And this is why I am running Ice Fang on my Frigibax. Otherwise, Dedenne would be very problematic to deal with. But now, of course, we can shield up the play rough there. I'm now going to overfarm, fire off an Icy Wind just before they do reach a Parabolic Charge. I don't expect them to fire off the Parabolic Charge. However, if they did throw it, maybe they could tank the next Charge move. But either way, I'm definitely just going to double shield here and go for that full Ice Fang farm down. But the opponent swaps into a Talonflame. So at this point, we've got the energy for the Icy Wind. Icy Wind gonna be no-shielded by the opponent, and Frigibax is actually going to win CMP in this matchup. So I throw straight away. The opponent is going to have to shield that up there, of course. And we put them into range where we can Dragon Breath farm them down with either Pokemon in the back. Gonna come in with the Baxcalibur just because we do have Avalanche for that nuke potential, and we're gonna see it in action as they come in with their final Pokemon, a Serperior. Avalanche gets the one shot. They come back in with the Dene, but they're so low we can Dragon Breath, farm them down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into the next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Sizzle in the lead. Now, this is the one really problematic Pokemon for this team. If they shield up the first charge move, it's just game over. There's nothing I can do here. And the opponent, because Shadow Sizzle is a fairly glassy Pokemon, and also because we stay in a really bad matchup, it's just going to play it safe there, use their shield. And now there's just nothing I can do, especially since they go for Trailblaze, ramping up their attack here. I'm going to shield this. I'm going to bank this charge move. I'm hoping I put them into range where we can snipe them with the Dragon Breaths, but no, we're not able to do so, and then the opponent gets damage registration error there, and we get fully 1v3 swept by a single Shadow Sizzle. So cool to see on their end. Obviously not ideal for me, and that is not the only Shadow Sizzle I saw. But into the next battle, and GG's to the opponent by the way, and another really bad lead matchup for me. However, this is a lot more manageable just because we're not really taking much fast move pressure at all. So I'm going to shield this. They actually bait with an Ice Beam, which is certainly painful for me, but we can now shield that, fire off the Icy Wind, and I will reach a second Icy Wind before they do reach the next charge move. So even if they full send a play rough next time, Frigibax might actually be able to tank it. So of course, we're now double debuffing their attack. They've got Bubble for the fast move, which is resisted, and we do tank it, and they're not going to be able to farm me down before we reach a third Icy Wind here with the Frigibax. So Icy Wind gets them fairly low. Unfortunately, not quite low enough to snipe with the Arctibax, but the opponent banks the energy before swapping into a Talonflame. We're going to fire off the Icy Wind there. Icy Wind is going to be shielded. And at this point, I can probably no-shield this. They fire off the Flame Charge, boosting up their attack once again. But Arctibax just barely able to reach a Dragon Claw before going down to the Incinerate damage. At this point, of course, all shields are down on the opponent's end. However, I do have to be wary as the opponent does have a move on the Azu. So I swap, I catch the charge move onto the Frigibax, and that puts me in a really good position. Now, the opponent's going to come in with a Ferrothorn, which is fine with me, and they're not going to farm up to a potential Flash Cannon. The opponent fires off an Acid Spray, which I did not expect to see. However, that could make things a little bit tricky for me. So we're going to fire off an Avalanche. Avalanche does big damage, and we can actually outpace them to the Dragon Claw here. Dragon Claw is resisted damage, but it gets the KO, and everything else should be in Dragon Breath farm down range now. So of course, I'm going to use my final shield here as they fire off the Ice Beam. Come back in with the Talonflame just to be farmed down, and once again, Azumarill is going to concede the match up against the triple Frigibax evolution line. So GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see a Mandibuzz in the lead, so a great lead matchup for me. The opponent is going to stay in initially before taking a ton of damage and swapping into Gastrodon. We're going to fire off the Icy Wind. Icy Wind gonna be no-shielded. I'm now going to come in into the Arctibax, and I'm probably actually going to shield this. I expect since they've been debuffed, they will just full send the Earth Power, which they do, and Arctibax able to fully Dragon Breath farm them down, and the opponent has already had enough there. I don't know what was in the back. Probably something weak to either the Ice typing or maybe just not very good up against the Dragon typing, but either way, way, GG's to that trainer into the next battle. We're going to see a Jellicent, and the opponent is now going to swap into Primate, trying to catch the charge move there. Either way, we're going to fire off a Dragon Claw. I expect the opponent probably won't full send a close combat, so I can now no shield this. Rage Fist, going to boost up their attack. I tried to go for an Icy Wind here, however, not certain that I would actually get there, so we settle for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw does actually put them into range where Baxcalibur can hopefully come in and Dragon Breath farm them down before they reach close combat, but the opponent is just going to go straight for that Rage Fist. So in hindsight, maybe should have came in with the Frigibax there if I was expecting a opponent to throw straight away, because now, unfortunately, Baxcalibur, not the bulkiest Pokemon ever, and the only Pokemon that's going to deal any meaningful damage with its fast moves now. So at this point, I'm forced to double shield here as they fire off back-to-back Surfs before swapping into a Clodsire. So at this point, we've got the Avalanche loaded, we full send it, we're now going to come in with the Frigibax, and can Frigibax actually tank a charge move here? All shields are down, the opponent full sends the Earthquake, but we hang on there. We do reach the Icy Wind. Icy Wind will not be enough damage to get the KO, but it does get them very low. We get the farm down, but can we reach a departing Dragon Claw? No, we're not able to do so, and as a result, the opponent outpaces me to the charge move here. If we got to the Dragon Claw, I would have put them into Dragon Breath farm down range, but unfortunately that is not the case, and we go down to the Surf there. So GG's to that trainer, but into next battle, another great lead for the Frigibax, and again the opponent choosing to stay in here, so I'm going to outpace them to the Dragon Claw, so I'm just going to fire this off straight away. Dragon Claw, going to be shielded. And at this point, I'm just going to match shields here. We can, of course, shield. They actually don't bait with an Icy Wind. They full send the Shadow Ball. But they come in with a Registeel, which is incredibly problematic for me. But we do have a huge energy advantage. And I can, of course, go for a debuff with the Icy Wind. The opponent actually allows me to reach another Dragon Claw here. So Dragon Claw, not going to do much damage, but it is decent chip there. It does get them into the yellow health range. So at this point, of course, gonna let the Frigibax go down. They go for the Focus Blast. They farm up to 100 energy. So they will actually just barely outpace whatever Pokemon I bring in. Gonna come in with the Baxcalibur as it is more attack weighted. I'm hoping maybe reach a Dragon Breath breakpoint up against the Registeel, but their final Pokemon is going to be a Clodsire. So once again, we've got the Avalanche. We full send it, but it does get shielded by the opponent. So now we come in with our final Pokemon, an Arctibax, unfortunately only on Icy Wind. So when we do get there, Icy Wind is not going to be enough damage to get the KO. However, depending on how much damage we do, I might just stop attacking completely and let the opponent fire off the charge move. So this point we're going to do that. The opponent fires off the Surge Bomb there. They're going to be able to swap back into the Registeel, but Baxcalibur able to outpace them to the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw does get the KO up against the Registeel. They come back in with the Clodsire. They recognize they're going to be farmed down before they reach another Earthquake, and so they just concede the match. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle, and this is an awful matchup for me, of course. Not quite as bad as the Scizor, just because I can at least deal neutral damage with my fast moves, with my charge moves, but still definitely not ideal, especially since they can just go straight Rage Fist and ramp up their attack stats. I'm going to shield that up there. I'm now going to swap into Arctibax, hoping to win CMP, but we do not win CMP with the Arctibax. And that is definitely not ideal for me. So, of course, I'm going to shield out the Rage Fist there. I'm going to go for the Dragon Claw. And I'm expecting the opponent probably just double shield their regular Annihilate here. But I have put them into range where Baxcalibur can come in and Dragon Breath farm them down. We get the farm down there just before they do reach a third counter. And because they were double boosted, they were dealing a lot of damage. I swap out. I tried to catch a Fire Punch there. But the opponent swaps at the same time into Shadow Drapion. Smart play on the opponent's end. They can just go for the Aqua Tail. I'm hoping Dragon Claw will be enough to get the KO from this range. I need this to KO, and they just barely hang on there. And unfortunately, I needed Dragon Claw to KO because if I went for Avalanche there, Diggersby outpaces me to the Scorching Sands. So unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. Going to see a Clodsire in the lead. So once again, great lead for the Frigibax. The opponent is this time going to catch an Icy Wind resisted damage onto their Blastoise. So very nice play there. However, we do debuff their attack. So now these rollouts not really doing that much damage. I could fire off a Dragon Claw. However, Blastoise very bulky. They will tank this. So instead, I'm going to shield, respect the damage from the Skull Bash. And here, I probably could have just committed to a full Dragon Breath farm down. Come out with back-to-back charge reloaded. Worst case scenario, they get to the Hydro Cannon However, I do at least bank an Icy Wind as I throw the Dragon Claw there, and it does go unshielded. So at this point, I can no-shield this as well. The opponent fires off the Stone Edge. Because we debuffed them, it doesn't get the KO. However, we can just come in with the Frigibax, get that Ice Fang farm down. We're going straight for Icy Wind here. Icy Wind going to permanently debuff their attack as this is their final Pokemon. And now we can just come in with the Baxcalibur. I can comfortably now live any one charge move that they throw. They go for the Crunch there. They do not get the defense drop. At this point, I'm just going to play it safe here, use my final shield. They can go for the Aqua Tail, but that's fine with me. I'm not going to bother throwing a single charge move as they do reach a departing Aqua Tail, but it's just not going to be enough for them. We come back in with the Frigibax, we get that Ice Fang farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there. Into next battle, we're going to see a Shadow Primeape in the lead. So, this is slightly more manageable than the Annihilate, but still definitely not ideal for me. The opponent is going to fire off the Charge Move here. I kind of have to respect this. The opponent is going to bait with the Rage Fist, but that's okay. I can now go for an Icy Wind, debuff their attack straight away, and then I'm actually going to swap into my Arctibax, but the opponent throws their Charge Move straight away. I kind of just wish I stayed in there and let them, of course, take me out with the Rage Fist, but we do get that Dragon Breath farm down, and let's see what the opponent has in the back. They're going to come in with a Lapras, so not really ideal here. I need to reach 2 Dragon Claws. First one, not really going to do that much damage, but the Dragon Breaths will start adding up over time, and unfortunately we faint as we get there. Oh, that is super, super not ideal. But we're going to come in with the Baxcalibur. I'm not going to try and swap straight away just because I don't know what their secondary charge move is. The opponent full sends a Skull Bash there, boosting up their defense. I could try and swap here, but I wasn't sure if the opponent would go straight for Sparkling Aria or if they would try and commit to another Skull Bash. And as a result, we are incredibly low. We need something super, super weak in the back. They come in with a Dusclops. It's not even a Shadow Dusclops either. So if I'm able to land an Avalanche here, which I expect maybe they might actually no-shield this, but even so, Avalanche does not get the KO there. Super bulky, and unfortunately they can now reach a Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch takes out the Frigibax, and we do get it incredibly close, but we do go down to the Hex damage, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG's to open there into next battle. Going to see a Jellicent in the lead now. Here, I make a big mistake. I tried to throw on CMP. That was a last-second decision there because I wasn't actually planning on throwing at all. What I was going to do is just overfarm, but then I thought, actually, I don't want to go down a shield in this lead matchup. So I threw there, and it backfires massively as they swap and catch it. Double resist it onto Dedenne, but the opponent then makes a mistake of their own, going straight for Parabolic Charge there, which of course we can tank. And now that I've debuffed them, I can also tank a second Parabolic Charge and reach another Icy Wind before they farm me down. So of course, Icy Wind is going to get them fairly low. We swap into Frigibax, and now they're double debuffed. Even if they full send a Play Rough, I can now tank this, and I do tank it. Then I'm going to come in with a Jellicent, and I will reach a Dragon Claw. The opponent probably now going to commit to a full Hex farm down, which isn't ideal. I actually go for the Icy Wind there, debuffing their attack instead, which is a little bit of a strange play there, maybe expecting to grab a shield anyways, but now we're going to come in with the Baxcalibur. They've got 100 energy, so I've got a call here. If they bait with the Surf, will they throw straight away? And I call that they won't. Instead, they go for the extra Hex, and they're forced to throw here. Otherwise, we get the full farm down, and they've got a Credilli in the back. Now, of course, we have full sent only Ice moves so far in this battle, I believe, so now we bait with the Dragon Claw, and it pays off as the opponent does shield that up there. Possibly we could have reached 2 Avalanches anyways, but I don't want to take that risk. Instead, now we're going to go and fire off the Avalanche. Avalanche, even debuffed, easily gets the KO here, and I should now be able to fully Dragon Breath, farm down the Jellicent, fully Dragon Breath, farm down to Dene, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to open there into next battle. We're going to see Frigibax into Shadow Scizor once again. So, of course, not ideal for me in the slightest. And this time, we are going to fire off the Dragon Claw straight away. I need them to no-shield this. Please, just let this go through. The opponent does actually let that go through. So now, we're going to swap into Frigibax. And I'm just going to no-shield once again here. Of course, the opponent fires off the Trailblaze, boosting up their attack. And unfortunately, again, just barely reaching that last second charge move there. I kind of have to just let it go down there, hoping Baxcalibur can fully sweep in the end game. We get the Dragon Breath farm down. The opponent is now going to come in with a Diggersby. So at this point, they will outpace me. They're going to go straight for a Fire Punch here. I'm going to shield this. I don't know what they've got in the back. And the opponent is now going to overfarm here. Sorry, I'm going to overfarm, throw just before they reach the next charge move. And I'm full sending the Avalanche. It gets the KO. But they've actually also got a Azumarill in the back. So now we've got a shield disadvantage up against Azumarill. It's not looking too good. However, Excalibur just doesn't really care about this disadvantage. We are still going to play this out, see if there's anything we can possibly do. They go for an Ice Beam bait there, which is certainly unfortunate. But now we're going to swap. We catch the charge move onto Frigibax. Is this a lifeline? Of course, they've still got 2 shields. I have not yet baited, so now we're going to go for a bait with the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw grabs the first shield from the opponent. They will outpace me before I reach back-to-back avalanches, but I'm full sending it this time, hoping they no shield. But unfortunately, they do shield there, and they will reach a last-second charge move. And of course, Play Rough easily takes us out from that range. And unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's, I felt like we actually made that fairly close considering the Pokemon we had to deal with there, a Shadow Sizzle and an Azumarill on the same team, and also a very bulky Pokemon in Diggersby. But anyways, into the next battle, gonna see Typhlosion, so once again swapping into Arctibax there, dealing neutral damage with the fast moves rather than resisted. And once again, I'm going for Icy Wind rather than the Dragon Claw just because I can debuff their attack here. The opponent will now not be able to fully farm me down. They're forced to throw a Charge Move here. Hydro Cannon does get the KO, however, we can come in with a Frigibax. I can tank one move, and I can probably actually just commit to a full Ice Fang farm down. The opponent fires off a Crunch there, and as a result, we get that full farm down. I'm expecting the opponent to come back in with the Typhlosion, so I'm going to go for the extra Ice Fang. They've got back-to-back Thunder Punches, and I expect throwing straight away, so we're going to swap into Excalibur, catch the second Thunder Punch there, and the opponent does throw that immediately. They're now going to swap into a Serperior, and at this point, we're looking to be in a decent position. I'm going to no-shield this as the opponent does fire off the Aerial Ace. Absolutely fine with me. I'm in range where I think a single Incinerate will get the KO anyway, so I might as well overfarm, fire off the Avalanche. Avalanche gets the KO there. They come back in with Typhlosion, but Frigibax is just too healthy. We get the resisted Ice Fang farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle, and this is up against a subscriber of mine, and they did reach out to me after the battle. It looks like they actually lag at the start here, so definitely not ideal for them. I actually didn't notice it when I was playing this, but looking at it back now, I can see they did lag a little bit there, but they do at least just barely reach a last-second charge move before I fully Dragon Breath farm them down, and we do use a shield there, so, I mean, I guess if they didn't lag, it probably would have been the same thing there, using one shield and farm them down. But either way, they come in with a King Gambit. However, they're not on Metal Stand. They're actually on Metal Claw, which is definitely not the move I would recommend. So if you are watching this video, definitely use a fast TM if you've got any to get Metal Stand, as that is going to be a massive improvement for the King Gambit. But they fire off the Foul Play before swapping into a Mud Slap XL Grimer, which is really cool to see. We're going to go for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw grabs the shield there. We're now going to swap into our Frigibax. Of course, all shields are down. They actually fire off a Mud Bomb. So once again, not really the right move to go for. They should be going for the Sludge there. But we're going to take advantage of that, as now we can fire off the Dragon Claw. The opponent then throws a charge move. Possibly they could have committed to a full Mud Slap farm down, but we can come back in with the Excalibur. I'm going to fire off the Dragon Claw, make sure they're not able to catch the charge move. Dragon Claw gets the KO there. They come back in with the King Gambit. I'm able to resist it, Dragon Breath farm them down, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's Turtle Trainer, very cool team, but I feel like if they had the right moves, or at least threw the right moves there, then it could have been very problematic for me. But into the next battle, we see another Sizzle, but this time they're on Fury Cutter, so a lot more manageable for me. They're actually going to swap out into Jellicent. They fire off the Shadow Ball there. I'm now going to try and throw on the CMP tie. However, the opponent, recognizing that, of course, they're not going to win CMP, and I might try and play for that, and they're just going to hit to a full Hex farm down. And as a result, whilst, yes, I do just barely reach a second Dragon Claw, they are not quite in range where it gets the KO there, and maybe if I threw on better timing, instead of giving them a full Hex in for free, I could have got that farm down. But either way, we are going to come in with the Frigibax, and they're going to go for back-to-back Bubble Beam baits there, which is a little bit annoying, but actually we do tank it very comfortably, and their final Pokemon, once again, going to be Azumarill. So, turns out Shadow Sizzle and Azumarill makes a lot of sense to pair them together, and obviously not really ideal for this team. However, once again, Excalibur, is going to try and put in some work. Avalanche dealing huge damage. At this point, we do have a catch attempt, but Frigibax actually does have a little bit of energy here, so let's see what we want to do. I'm going to farm up, throw the Avalanche just before I reach back-to-back. They are one bubble away from the next charge move, and they're going to swap back straight away into their Shadow Sizzle. Now I'm going for the Avalanche. It does huge resisted damage, and then I try to swap out there, but I swap, or at least I click on the swap. One turn too late. We get locked in. The opponent undercharges that on purpose. And unfortunately, Icy Wind just not going to hit anywhere near as hard as the Avalanche. It does not get the KO. However, we do debuff their attack. Can we let the play rough? No, unfortunately not, and they can just bubble, farm me down from that range, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. I feel like if I did make that catch there onto my onto my Frigibax, I could have won that game, banking the avalanche. But anyways, GG's to that trainer. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Gastrodon in the lead to once again neutral matchup, so I swap into my Arctibax. And the opponent's going to respond with a Dunsparce. So I've not really seen too many Dunsparce this season, but a little bit tricky for me. Of course, they're going to have Rock-type damage with Rollout and Rock Slide. We're going to come back in with a Frigibax. I've debuffed their attacks, so now I can shield once. I'm not taking too much fast move pressure, and I should be able to go for a full Ice Fang farm down. Of course, none of these moves are stab moves from the Dunsparce. They're going to come back in with the Gastrodon. I'm going straight for the Icy Wind. Icy Wind, gotta be no shield. We come in with Baxcalibur, and the opponent doesn't actually get to a charge move there. Their final Pokemon is going to be a Clodsire. So at this point, it's looking pretty comfortable for me. Of course, they do have a shield advantage. However, we grab that shield instantly with the Avalanche. At this point, what I don't want to do is no shield a Sludge Bomb and put that into range where they get the perfect farm done. I feel like if I did no shield there, that would have been exactly the case. So instead, I shield up the Sludge Bomb. However, now if the opponent wants to, they can massively overfarm, and this suddenly gets very dicey for me. Sludge Bomb gets the KO, the opponent overfarms, and they do get to another charge move, but this is just going to be the Sludge Bomb. Frigibax hangs on, we get to the charge move at the last second with 1 HP and a Dream, and Icy Wind gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.